your culture, education, upbringing, beliefs, experiences, imagination, relationships, personality, and your values are some of the things that have not just eaten deep into your nature, but they have become your very nature. When was the last time you questioned any of these things? When was the last time you questioned how you think? Join me, Emmanuel Utomi, and my guests every Monday from 9 p.m. on PRZ 109.2 FM London on Paspektives, because how you think powers your worldviews, actions, and your ultimate reality. So, come on. Let us explore alternative ways of looking at life's issues. Perspectives. What you already know should not stand in the way of what you could learn. You are welcome to another day, to another week, and I say welcome to the Prayer Rally Zone, PRZ 109.2 FM, and this is Perspectives, the show that is designed to take you one step closer to a better life. And my name is Emmanuel Utomi. I say God bless you. Thank you for taking out time today to listen to this broadcast, and I say thank you so much. God bless you. I pray for you that which your heart seeks, that God that rules in the affairs of men will reach out and give it to you in the name of Jesus, that he will order your steps into destiny, that the Bible says that by his stripes we were healed. I declare that for you, this shall be the situation. This shall be the case, that if you have any wound on your body, the God that we serve will heal you in the name of Jesus. As you open up your heart to him to receive his word by faith, God will meet you at the point of your very need in the name of Jesus. And I pray for that situation that appears to be hopeless. You think nothing else can come out of this, that things have really turned upside down. Listen, the God that stepped into the boat with the disciples and calmed the storm, I declare, will step into that situation for you, because of you, and calm the storm, that he might bring glory to the name of Jesus Christ. I declare it, and so shall it be for you and for your family in the name of Jesus. You are welcome once again to Perspectives, the show that is designed to take you one step closer to a better life. It's a beautiful month. We are, for those who live in the UK, as you are aware, the sun is out. It has been a really summer day, a really beautiful day. The sun is out, and as Pastor Peter would usually say, yes, let's go out there and enjoy ourselves. Right. You are welcome once more. And for those joining the program for the first time, like I said, this is Perspectives, the show that is designed to take you one step closer to a better life. This show is actually designed to encourage you to question how you think. It's also designed to get you to develop the habit of thinking differently, as well as to develop a progressive and a solution-based mindset. You see, this show is all about finding alternative ways to thinking about situations that may have been designed to become stumbling blocks in your life, in your path. And the show is designed for you to help you think about, to view those things. It's designed to help you change your perspective such that those seeming stumbling blocks will become stepping stones. They will turn out to be the very same devices that will help you move to that next level, to that new opportunity that you're desiring in life. Listen, what happens to you happens to everyone else, and we realize that though it's happening to everyone else, not everyone ends up with the same result. And one of the major reasons why we all don't end up with the same result despite the fact that we all seem to go through the same things or similar things, is the fact that, or one of the major reasons is the fact that the way we appreciate those situations, the way we think about those things, our perspectives of those things are different. If you see something, if you end up in a situation and you feel that situation is designed to drown you, well, if that is what you're taking on board, then chances are you may just decide to give up. But if you think they are designed for you to ride and to help you ride into that destiny that God has prepared for you, then you will see them as a challenge that will help you build the muscles, build the ideas, build the capacity that you need to get to that next level in life. I once said that the same waves that drown boats are the same waves that surfers ride into glory. So which one will it be for you? Are you going to allow these waves to drown you, or will you ride the waves into that next level? So this is what the program is all about. And if you would like to be part of the program, if you'd like to air your views, you can send us an email, or you can send a tweet. If you have an email, you can send your emails to perspectives@przfm.com. That's perspectives@przfm.com. Or you could tweet at perspectives. And as I would usually say, perspectives is spelled in a different way, because like we said, this program is designed to encourage you question how you think. So we spell perspectives as PASPEKTIVES. That is PASPEKTIVES. Yeah, that's something for you to think about, because then again, that is why this program is on air. All right, if you'd like to send a text, you can send your text to 0757-260-5435. That's 0757-260-5435. Well, depending on the country where you find yourself, you can put in the necessary prefix, which is +44, because it is a UK number. Right, we have quite a bit to talk about today, so we're going to be going into the program straight. Right, every month on Perspectives we look at a different topic, and this month we have been looking at the dynamics of relationship. That's the dynamics of relationship, and it's really at the heart of this topic is actually the point that of how some of the relationships as human beings that you are involved in or you are involved with may be controlling your life, or may be strongly impacting on your destiny or on the results that you are achieving at the moment in life. The point is that regardless of how you want to look at it, the relationships that you get involved with, they do in some way, shape or form impact on your life. They impact on how you live your life. They impact on the things that you like, and sometimes they actually impact on your joy and pain. We have this statistics that says fully 85% of the joy and pain that you will feel of your successes and failures, that they are centered around your relationships. And in this case, we're not just looking at your human relationships, we're looking at relationships in a general perspective, in a general sphere. So it's not just human relationship, but we're saying the way you relate with your environment, the way you relate with people, the way you relate with places, the way you relate with things, they have a massive impact on your on your life and on the way things turn out for you. So we looked at a few things, and we've been considering some of those things, and such things as, like I said earlier, you will always, as a person, have relationships with people, you have relationships with animal, you will have relationships with places or things. The relationship that we have with people is a no-brainer. Some of us get along with certain types of people, and some of us don't get along with certain types of people. Some of us find certain types of people encouraging, while for others we find it's encouraging to be around some other type of people. Some of us we love our animals. Some love dogs, some love cats, and our relationship with these animals, most times they tend to impact on how we view people. For some, they just enjoy going to certain places. For some, a place could be actually a room. For some, you might have this particular location where you go to be alone, or it might be a favorite holiday destination, or it might be a favorite desk or table where you find yourself thinking the way that you want, or it could be your bedroom. Wherever it is, what I'm saying is that our relationship with certain places, certain things, certain people, they make a world of difference as to the direction that our lives have been taken so far. For some, it could be our relationship with our cars, with clothes, with fashion, with our phones, with the TV, with our laptops, with our mobile devices. Those relationships, they matter. And as much as we take note of those relationships and we're able to count the cost, take a step back and question how these relationships, they impact our lives, how they impact the direction of our lives, then we will be able to take back control of our lives. So be aware of that. Become conscious of it. Remember, one of the goals of Perspectives is to get you to question how you think and to develop that habit of thinking intelligently, thinking consciously, thinking differently. So question some of the things that you do. That is the goal of Perspectives. So as humans, we will have relationships in different areas. There's also the fact that these relationships could be positive or they could be negative. It could be there are aspects of this relationship that we like, or there are aspects of those relationships that we don't like. Like I said earlier, for some, there are certain relationships that we have cultivated that if we take a step back, we'd realize that they are actually positive. Their impact on our lives are actually positive. While on the other hand, if we're going to be sincere with ourselves, would realize that we might have certain relationships or be involved in certain relationships which impact on our lives negatively. Or in some cases, it could be that certain aspects of those relationships are positive while certain aspects of those relationships are negative. So these are some of the things you need to start considering about the relationship that you're involved with. We also have these relationships in ways where they could be helpful or healthy, or they could be healthy or helpful to certain extents. Just like I explained earlier, you need to take a step back and ask yourself, how positive are these relationships, or is this relationship that I'm involved in? If you need to be able to track what direction any relationship you're in is moving you. As a person, you need to be able to say, right, this particular individual that I'm involved with, this particular job that I'm involved with, what is the impact on my life? Do I go into that job feeling lively, then I always come out drained and feeling useless or down? Identify every relationship first for what it is and not what you'd like it to be. And that's one other point for you to consider. Now, we're not saying you shouldn't strive towards building a relationship into what you would want it to be. No, we're saying before you get to what that relationship should be, first identify it for what it is at the moment. Identify that relationship for what it is at the moment. One other factor that you need to consider when it comes to relationship is the fact that your capacity to cultivate and to maintain relationships would, to a very large extent, have a major impact on the direction of your life. So we're talking about, are you able to cultivate what are relationships? But not just cultivating those relationships, but are you able to maintain those relationships? Because if you look around you, you are actually a product of a relationship. Most of the results that you have achieved or that you may have failed to achieve may be down to how you have either been able to cultivate or not being able to cultivate certain relationships and or maintain those relationships. So the quality of the relationships that you have in certain aspects of your life will determine the direction of your life in those areas. So are you cultivating the right relationship, and are you maintaining those relationships? All right. We also said that you need to identify your reasons for being involved in your present relationships. We're looking at the dynamics of relationships, and we're saying you need to understand, you need to be able to hand on heart say to yourself, I know why I'm in a relationship with this person. I know why I have a relationship with my phone. Why do you own a mobile phone? Is it just to make calls and to receive calls, or is there more to it? Do you spend all your time looking at pictures of other people? Do you spend hours on end looking at pictures of other people? Is that productive time for you? If it is not, then you need to start questioning the quality of relationship you have with that phone. Sometimes it might not even be the phone, it might be a particular application on that phone. So yes, you do have relationship with apps on your phone. So the question is this: what sort of relationship do you have? Are there certain apps on your phone that you know they're helping you grow as a human being, while there are other apps that you would sincerely, if you're going to be truthful with yourself, you're going to be open with yourself, you would sincerely say, you know what, this app is actually taking more away from me than it is adding to me. Are you able to classify all the applications on your phone into two? One helpful and the other not helpful. If I asked you to do that on all the applications on your phone, identify the apps on your phone that help you grow, help you develop as a human being, makes you or helps you become a better human being. Are you able to identify them? Then, are you able to identify apps on your phone that have become a source of investment into your life? Things that are apps that are helping you grow when you use them. While on the other hand, are you able to identify the applications on your phone that are for the fun of whiling away time? Are you able to identify on your phone applications that are not actually moving you forward in any way, shape, or form? How sincere can you be with yourself? And I'd like to leave that as a task for you as you go into this week. Do an audit of the applications on your phone. Do an application of the apps on your phone and see which ones might not need to be there if you're serious about the direction in which you want to head in life. So those are some of the things that we're considering within this month that we're looking at the dynamics of relationship. And last week we looked at licensed to trouble. We're going to be continuing on that topic today of being licensed to trouble, and this is actually based on the idea that every relationship you are involved with is actually a license to be troubled in some way, shape, or form. You going into a relationship is actually you granting permission to another person or to another part or to the other party to sometimes disturb you. And that disturbance could be either actually mental or physical. It's to take away calm. It's a license. It's permission to cause you discomfort in some way, shape, or form. And that is what it actually means to go into relationships. Sometimes it is you granting them permission to inconvenience you. Sometimes that is what we're looking at when we're looking at license to trouble. So what are some of the relationships that you've been in, and by going into those relationships, we're saying you've actually granted them the permission to trouble you, to inconvenience you. You've given them permission to take away mental or physical calm and to bring you discomfort. And sometimes you might need those inconveniences, those discomforts, those unease in order to become a better version of yourself. And you know what? We're going to be looking at a few facts also. You see, the people that you get involved with in a relationship are either legally or otherwise, they are people that will direct or influence the direction of your life, like we've said earlier. You see, for example, in all human relationships, each party enters the relationship based on certain assumptions. So we're going to use human relationships as a case in point here. Now, these are some of the things that you need to take note of when you are either in a relationship or going into a relationship. And the first point I really want you to consider is the fact that that the relationship, what your relationships would look like and what it would be like, will seem to be based on your own ideas. You tend to go into every relationship with a picture of what an ideal relationship would look like. So if you're a guy or a lady, a mom or a dad, when you picture that relationship you're having with your spouse or with your kids, at the back of your mind you have the picture of this ideal relationship. In the same way, the other person in that relationship would also have their own picture of an ideal relationship. And do you realize that it is this picture that drives the dynamics of that relationship? That is one point you need to reconcile. Think about it. What is the ideal picture of the relationship you'd like to have with your spouse, with your colleagues, with your children? Have you noticed that either consciously or unconsciously, it is this picture that tends to drive how we talk and how we relate or behave or conduct ourselves with this other person? And it is this picture that will determine what we're prepared to give or take within the confines or context of that relationship. Think about it. If you feel that you are supposed to be enjoying certain benefits within a particular relationship, I guarantee you that realize that you feel, either directly or indirectly, that you're entitled to these benefits. It would also determine what you're willing to give in exchange to that other party in order to enjoy those benefits. Think about it. Also, the extent to which they might be willing to go, that is, this other person might be willing to go and persevere in that relationship. What do I mean by that? When you have a picture of an ideal relationship, that picture drives what you're willing to give and take in that relationship. It also means that it will drive the extent to which you're willing to persevere in the face of challenges, in the face of trouble, in the face of uncertainty. If your ideal picture is that within every relationship there will be times when there will be tough times, that there will be times of misunderstanding, that there will be times when you would need to reconsider your stand. When those times come, you take them in your strides. But if your ideal picture is that a relationship is supposed to be smooth sailing, no problems, then at the first sign of unrest, what tends to happen is that you dust you shake the dust off your feet and you're out. So again, we're looking at the dynamics of relationship. We're saying this is what we do when we get into relationship, that we license people to trouble us. We give them the permission to bring unrest and unsettlement into our lives. And we say that sometimes that unrest, that discomfort could be positive and sometimes could be negative. Because sometimes those unrest, they drag us or they move us out of our comfort zone, and they help us develop the muscles, the intellectual capacity, the resilience that we need in order to become better versions of our lives. So we've said that you would enter every relationship based on the ideals that you have, or on what you think an ideal relationship would look like. And because of this, you will be prepared to give or take certain things in order to fulfill that, in order to bring that picture to light. And because you're willing to give or take certain things, it will therefore determine how much you're willing to persevere in that relationship. Now, what it also means is that it will help you clarify your hopes and your expectations. And sometimes you would also help the other party in that relationship clarify their hopes and their expectations. You see, the challenge is every single individual going into a relationship enters those relationships with certain assumptions, with certain bags and baggages, with things like past experiences, things like their hopes and expectations. These are things that we go into a relationship with, or go into relationships with. And those things, they drive us big time. They determine how we conduct ourselves within those relationships. If you see someone behaving in a certain way in any relationship, I guarantee you it is because they have a clear picture of what it is they like to achieve. And those pictures are driven either by past experience, by culture, by knowledge, by education, or by expectations. So for a relationship to succeed, you have to learn to expect that the people you're going into relationships with will have these baggages. So what am I saying? You need to identify this, that they will have those baggages. You need to understand those baggages that they're bringing in with them. You need to learn how to either live with those baggages or to deal with them. But you also need to appreciate the fact that they're not just the only ones coming into that relationship with bags and baggages, that you also have your own set of bags and baggages. And people will always go around with these various bags and baggages. And like I said, they bring them into those relationships. Now, your responsibility, if that relationship is going to succeed, your responsibility is to bluntly assess if you have the capacity and the capability, and as well as the willingness to support not just yourself with your own bags and baggages, but the other person you're going into a relationship with. And when I talk about being willing or being capable, it doesn't necessarily mean that you would be in a position to deal with those bags and baggages yourself, or you'd be able to help that other person yourself. It might be being able to support them to the point where they're able to find solutions to those bags and baggages that they have. And by the way, those bags and baggages may not necessarily be bad things. They could be good things. Because to bring in bags and baggages that challenges me to become a better version of myself is a good thing. Also, we're saying when you are in a relationship, certain responsibilities are placed on you. And the point is, you need to identify both the express and the implied responsibilities for that relationship to succeed. So there are certain things that are spoken, that are clear, that are expected of you. Also, there are certain things that are not said, they are not written, but they are implied that you should be able to do or contribute. And if that relationship is to succeed, then you have to ensure that you do those things, that you ensure those things are being done. But you see, if I go back to the issue of the bags and baggages, I said something about being capable and being willing to deal with those or to handle those bags and baggages. You see, before you go into any relationship, one of the things you should appreciate is the fact that for that relationship to succeed, you need to identify that those bags and baggages exist. So this is before the relationship starts. Both parties need to sit down and say, all right, this is who I am and this is what I'm bringing into this relationship. These are my past experiences, and so on and so forth. Now, if you don't do those things at the start of the relationship, then I guarantee you that somewhere along the line, when those bags become stumbling blocks, at those points in time, you would need wisdom in order to deal with them. Now, what am I saying? There will always come a time when there will be a need for you to look those challenges in the eye and say, it is time for us to either overcome them or use them as a means to growing further. So those are some of the facts that we've considered so far. Now, last week also, we looked at the story of Jonah in the Bible. Now, for those who were with us last week, you know the story. And for those who are just joining us or who weren't here last week, I'm just going to give us a summary. Now, Jonah was a servant of God, a prophet of some sort, who God spoke to clearly, and God said to him, I want you to go to the city of Nineveh. I want you to preach to them. And that's it. But Jonah refused. So Jonah decided to board a ship going to Tarshish. But while he was on that ship, God sent a serious wind. I mean, there was so much turbulence on the sea that the sailors started to jettison their cargo, and they felt they were going to die. But at some point, the captain of the ship went down into the hold of the ship and realized that Jonah was sleeping through all this, and he was really upset with Jonah. He woke him up, dragged him upstairs and said, look, come on, pray to your God. And the conversation got round to identifying why they were in the predicament that they found themselves. And it all turned out that they were experiencing this hardship and pain because they were in a relationship with Jonah, because of the bags and baggages that Jonah brought on to that boat with himself. And of course, Jonah explained his circumstances and said to them, look, if you would bind me and if you would toss me into the sea, things will be sorted. But of course, the sailors didn't want to be responsible for killing Jonah, so they decided to row harder to see if they could get to land. But they couldn't. So at some point, they had to push Jonah aside, and then they had to throw Jonah overboard, and the sea was calm. A fish swallowed Jonah, and that was where we ended. But we looked at certain key points in that story. Certain key issues that points to the fact that, as I've been explaining earlier, that when we allow people come into our lives, we actually license them to trouble us. We license them to inconvenience us. We permit them. We grant them the permission to bring either discomfort or unease or disturbance into our lives. Now, to license them means they are in our lives legally. They did not force their way into our lives. No, we permitted them to come in, but their very presence have become a source of loss, of misfortune for us. It is the same with the story of Jonah. You see, in the book of Jonah, chapter 1, and in verse 3, it says, but Jonah got up and went in the opposite direction to get away from the Lord. He went down to the port of Joppa, where he found a ship leaving for Tarshish. He bought a ticket and went on board, hoping to escape from the Lord by sailing to Tarshish. Now, for me, the key phrase there is that he bought a ticket. So he wasn't a stowaway. He was legally on board that ship. By purchasing that ticket, he established a legal relationship with the sailors, with the ship owners, and with the captain of that boat. However, because of his presence, these people were suffering loss. Because if we read on, it says, but the Lord hurled a powerful wind. This is verse 4. But the Lord hurled a powerful wind over the sea, causing a violent storm that threatened to break the ship apart. Fearing for their lives, the desperate sailors shouted to their gods for help and threw the cargo overboard to lighten the ship. But all this time, Jonah was sound asleep in the hold. That's interesting. So, because of the presence of Jonah on this ship, even individuals who were not on that ship but who had investments, who had bought goods and placed them on that ship, hoping to transport those goods maybe to their relatives or to their business partners in Tarshish, were suffering loss because Jonah was on that ship. In the same way, there are certain people in our life that are licensed to be in our life because they've bought the ticket and they are legally on board, who have become the silent reasons why we're probably facing some of the heartaches and pains that we're going through. Are you able to identify those people in your life? Are you able to identify those gadgets in your life? Are you able to identify those items in your life? Are you able to identify those places in your life? Because for all you know, if you're not observant, you might not know they are the source. Because the next verse, which is verse 6, says, so the captain went down after him. So the captain went down after him. How can you sleep? Verse 5 again. Let me read verse 5 again. It says, for fearing for their lives, the desperate sailors shouted to their gods for help and threw the cargoes overboard to lighten the ship. But all this time, Jonah was sound asleep down in the hold. The next verse says, so the captain went down after him. How can you sleep at a time like this? Is shouted. Get up and pray to your God. Maybe he will pay attention to us and spare our lives. Imagine that. You see, you need to be careful to find the actual source of some of the troubles that you're going through in your life. You see, after trying all you know how to do, then it might be reasonable for you to take a step back and refocus. You've been doing the same thing over and over again. You've been trying to deal with this problem, but it's not going. Could it be a particular habit? It's like, let me give you a beautiful example. When I was in university, I realized that I suffered there's this particular cold that I suffered for like 3 straight years. I kid you not. 3 straight years, every single day I had this cold. And at some point in time, I have to admit to you that I felt I was possessed by a demon or something. I prayed, fasted, did everything. This cold simply would not let up. It would not go. Then I realized that when I graduated, after a few weeks, this cold just cleared up. You know, when I took a step back and I asked myself, what exactly was different? And I realized that my regime while I was doing my undergraduate studies was so packed that I was barely having enough time to sleep. But after graduation, one of the things that I did was to take out time and really rest and sleep. So I realized that it wasn't a demon, I wasn't possessed, there was nothing wrong. It was just the fact that there was a particular habit that I had inculcated, that I was engaged with, that was triggering and reinforcing the cold. If I had taken a step back then and reevaluated my behavior, my use of time, it may have become very evident to me that my use of time was the very reason why I was experiencing those cold. So what am I saying? Maybe it's time for you to take a step back and reevaluate why you are going through the things that you're going through. Particularly if you have done all that you physically and possibly or intellectually can to deal with that problem and it's not just going away. like the sailors. They've done everything and the storm wasn't going away. So like Jonah, there are people you have invited into your life, despite your best intentions, who have become a source of trouble to you. They've become a source of loss. They have become a source of misfortune for you. They are at the root of what you're going through. And until you root them out, that problem is going to stay. And it may not be a demon. It is something that you're doing. So, is there a Jonah in your life? In this case, that Jonah, like I said earlier, could be an app on your phone, something that is taking away so much resource time from you that you could invest in something else much more productive. Or maybe you should actually pray and ask God for clarity as to identify the relationship that you're involved in that are not helping you achieve the goals that you want to achieve. Now, another interesting verse that I find in this story of Jonah is in verse 7. Let me read from verse 7. It said, "Then the crew cast lots to see which of them had offended the gods and caused this terrible storm. When they did this, the Lord identified Jonah as the culprit." Now, in those days, when they cast lots, they used it to identify people given certain situations or circumstances. So in verse 8 they say to him, "Why has this awful storm come on us?" They demanded. "Who are you? What is your line of work? What country are you from? What is your nationality?" Now, why am I reading this again? You see, when you find that things are not going the way you want, then it would make sense for you to ask questions. But you know what? You ought to ask questions that are useful. You ought to ask questions that are relevant. You ought to ask questions that when you get the answers to your questions, they will help you move out of the situation that you find yourself. Don't just ask questions out of being emotionally upset. Learn to ask questions that will give you the answers that will bring you out of your situation as fast as possible. Because Jonah did answer those questions. He said to them, "I am a Hebrew. I worship the Lord, the God of heavens who made the seas and the land." Yet nothing changed. But somewhere later, they learned to ask Jonah the right question when they said, "What should we do in order to stop this storm?" And that was when Jonah said to them, "Throw me into the sea. It will become calm. I know that this terrible storm is my fault." You see, sometimes the solution to your relationship troubles may not be popular or convenient or easy. But once you identify those solutions, you know what? Apply them without sentiment. I'll say that again. Once you identify the solutions to your relationship problems, apply them without sentiment. That may sound harsh, but you and I know that is the truth. Now, look at what the sailors now did. Now, Jonah says, "Throw me into the sea." But it says, instead, the sailors rowed even harder to get the ship to land. But the stormy sea was too violent for them, and they couldn't make it. You see, now you've identified the solution to your relationship problems. But maybe because of public opinion, maybe because of what people will say or will not say, maybe because of how the other person or party would feel, or maybe because of how things may turn out, you now continue to do the same things that you're doing harder. Just like the sailors, they started to row harder. Listen, doing the same things harder may not make any difference, particularly if they are the wrong things that you're doing. See, no matter how good your intentions are, the wrong remedies will not bring the right solution. The wrong remedies will not bring the right solution, particularly if you know what the right remedy is. Add no sentiment. Apply that remedy without sentiment. He says, then they cried out to the Lord. Jonah's God, O Lord, they pleaded, don't make us die for this man's sin, and don't hold us responsible for his death, O Lord. You have sent this storm upon him for your own good reasons. Look, now those sailors, they know why they should do what they should do. Now, in order to identify the problems in your relationship, sometimes it might not be so obvious. So it might be worth your while to do what these people did, which is to pray. Pray and ask God, open my eyes. Create an opportunity for me to identify what the exact trouble is. But like we said, once you identify that problem, apply the solution straight. Now, this is the story of someone who is licensed to trouble. This is the story of Jonah. This is the story of someone who, or something, in this case, someone who comes into your life and brings a situation that is not enviable, that does not bring you joy. But you know what, like I said, being in a relationship with someone is not always gloom and doom. There are situations where you could be in a relationship, and those relationships, they actually build you. They help you become better versions of yourself. They help you become an improved version of yourself. They bring you into contact with people that you would ordinarily not have been in contact with on your own. They take you into better places. They take you into good environments. And that is what we're going to be looking at next, particularly next week. Because next week, we are going to be looking at license to progress. And not just license. For the past 2 weeks, we looked at license to trouble. But for next week, we're going to be looking at licensed to progress. And just to give us a taste of what we're looking at, we're going to be looking at the story of Joseph in the land of Egypt. We're going to be taking our text from the book of Genesis 39. So I'm going to be laying a foundation for what we're going to be looking at next week today. So I'm going to be reading from Genesis chapter 39 from verses 1 to verse 6 in the New Living Translation. And it says, when Joseph was taken to Egypt by the Ishmaelite traders, he was purchased by Potiphar, an Egyptian officer. Potiphar was captain of the guard for Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. The Lord was with Joseph, so he succeeded in everything he did as he served in the house of his Egyptian master. Verse 3 says, Potiphar noticed this and realized that the Lord was with Joseph, giving him success in everything that he did. Verse 4 says, this pleased Potiphar, so he soon made Joseph his personal attendant. He put him in charge of his entire household and everything he owned. It says, from the day Joseph was put in charge of his master's household and property, the Lord began to bless Potiphar's household for Joseph's sake. All his household affairs ran smoothly. His crops and livestock flourished. So Potiphar gave Joseph complete administrative responsibility over everything he owned. With Joseph there, he didn't worry about a thing except what kind of food to eat. Joseph was a very handsome and well-built young man. If you contrast this story of Joseph with that of Jonah, you'd realize that there's a massive difference on the impact of Joseph in the family of Potiphar. And next week, this is what we're going to be looking at. Licensed to progress. Licensed to prosper. So the same way people come into your life, or certain people or certain things come into your life, and they could bring stress, they could bring discomfort, they could bring distraction, they could bring loss of hope, they could bring loss of properties. In the same way, there are certain people or there are certain relationships you could be involved with that could bring hope, that could bring joy, that could bring security, that could bring progress, that could bring success to you just by virtue of relating with these people. And that is what we're going to be looking at. So, as you join, I'd like to say thank you for spending time with me today and listening to Perspectives, the show that is designed to take you one step closer to a better life. And I would say that as I close this program, may the God that we serve bless you and take you into that next level. And I look forward to seeing you, or to speaking with you, or having you join me on this broadcast, same time, 9 p.m. every Monday on the Prayer Rally Zone, PRZ 109.2 FM. So until we meet again next week, I'd like to say this. Do something. Based on what you've heard today, do something. Take steps, no matter how small, that will take you into that better life. And until we meet again, I'd like to say thank you, goodbye, and God bless.
Your culture, education, upbringing, beliefs, experiences, imagination, relationships, personality, and your values are some of the things that have not just eaten deep into your nature, but they have become your very nature. When was the last time you questioned any of these things? When was the last time you questioned how you think? Join me, Emmanuel Utomi, and my guests every Monday from 9 p.m. on PRZ 109.2 FM London on Perspektives, because how you think powers your worldviews, actions, and your ultimate reality. So, come on. Let us explore alternative ways of looking at life's issues. Perspektives. What you already know should not stand in the way of what you could learn.